Hey noobs, Mr. Frog here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Garage Vamp, a campy static visual novel game developed by Hyunmanu Games and published by Tiny Hat Studios. The game is not censored by default on Steam, so you can get straight into the game right after installing. Now before we get started, there is one thing I would like to mention regarding Garage Vamp. All the H scenes are heavily centered around NTR themes, so for those who are not interested in NTR games, then do keep this in mind. The game also contains some other questionable elements, but we'll get into that later in the review. Now with that out of the way, the game opens with a scene showing one of the main characters, Jonathan, bringing home a strange coffin-shaped crate home that is supposed to contain some pillows for his local church. He is then welcomed home by his loving and faithful wife, Mina. The two chat and then head to bed. During the night, however, Mina is plagued by strange dreams and an uneasy sense that something is hiding within the house. The next day, Jonathan goes to check his crate and deliver it to the church when he notices it was mysteriously opened during the night. That night again, Mina has strange dreams and another uneasy feeling and decides to check around the house. Once she enters the garage, a voice begins to call to her. The voice asks for blood. This terrifies Mina at first, but the voice then promises great pleasure in exchange for her blood. Thinking this the work of a devil, Mina denies the request and heads back to bed, swearing to exorcise him by tomorrow. During the night, though, Mina has more dreams. The voice calls to her again in her dreams and finally reveals itself as Vladimiro, a strange bat-like creature. Mina is once again terrified, but Vladimiro offers her a taste of the pleasure he can offer. And once Mina has tried it, she can no longer resist, and begins to slowly give in more and more to Vladimiro's demands. And that basically sums up the main plot for the game. As mentioned before, and as you can tell, the main draw of this game is going to be the NTR elements, where Vladimiro slowly steals Jonathan's wife away from him with his ability to offer supernatural levels of pleasure. It's oftentimes very campy and has kind of like a bad B-movie type feel to it, with many laugh-out-loud moments. I personally had a great time playing this game, as it never really takes itself too seriously, and it does have a lot of fun with its fairly absurd plot. Now, as you progress through the game, Mina will of course become more and more corrupted, and as she gives more and more blood to Vladimiro, his form will change to many different figures, which leads us into the real content of this game, the H content. Now, aside from the very obvious NTR themes in Garage Vamp, I do want to warn that since Vladimiro is a bat, that the game also contains another fairly niche H theme related to creatures. I will say that despite not being a fan of this type of content at all, the game does play it off in a rather humorous way that makes it a little easier to look past. In fact, most of the H scenes I personally found to be more comical than anything else, with its very goofy dialogue and ridiculously over-the-top reaction faces on Mina. None of this is to really say that the H content or art quality is bad in this game though. In fact, I would say it's all done decently well and looks pretty great. Regardless though, this game is definitely probably one you are more likely to play for its bad B-movie-like content more than anything else. I'd say the only real downside to this game is that it is a strictly static visual novel, meaning there are no choices you can make within the game. It is a straightforward and linear plot. The game also clocks in roughly under 2 hours, so it is decently short and pretty quick to play through as well. Adding a couple choice branches could have added a lot of replay value to this game, which would have been nice to see, but the game is priced at a fairly budget value on Steam, so it's another downside that is pretty easy to overlook. Overall, Garage Vamp is a fun and campy H visual novel game that I would most likely recommend to anyone that enjoys cheesy horror movies and doesn't mind overlooking some of the game's more out there content. With that being said, Mr. Frog gives this game the Halloween Mountain Dew sip of approval. Once again, thank you to everyone for all the support, and if you'd like to see more H game content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to check out the Mr. Frog stream over on Twitch. Later, noobs.